What is music therapy? Mental health? How does it work? Don't worry, we're going to talk all about it and have some real and fun conversations. You're listening to the Live Tune Talks.
Welcome back to another episode of this podcast. My name is Ivy and I'm your host for today. So I just have a really good feeling about this episode that we are going to have today. Our guest of today, she is a music psychotherapist, our very own vice president of our Malaysian Music Therapy Association, and also the first Malaysian music therapist who got offered to have her own music therapy clinic in a private hospital in KK, which to me is a very, very big deal. And she's basically one of the first few people who have started the music therapy field in Malaysia and have done such an incredible work in our community. So with that being said, it's my greatest honor to welcome Preet. Hello, Preet.
Hello,
Welcome.
Ivy. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's a real honor to be here, and it's a pleasure to be able to talk with your listeners.
Yes, awesome. So why not to start us off, just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Okay. Well, I am a Malaysian.
Oh, yes.
I am a mother to a
Mhm.
19-year-old son.
Mm.
I'm a music therapist. I identify more as a music psychotherapist
Mhm.
because of my orientation, and we'll probably talk about that a bit later. So I'm currently working at a private hospital in KK, Sabah, Jesselton
Mhm.
Medical Center. I run an outpatient music therapy clinic at the hospital. So I work primarily with psychiatric patients and also
Mhm.
from general medical patients with mental health needs. Um, so at this clinic, I actually work integratively where I use music therapy,
Mhm.
music psychotherapy, EMDR, and hypnotherapy. So I do a lot of depth work in my sessions, especially with trauma, suicidality, psychosis,
Mhm.
grief and loss, borderline personality disorders, autism, and addictions. Um, so currently, I see mostly outpatients, and if I
Mhm.
do see any inpatients, so far, these have been patients warded via emergency from attempted suicides.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's me at my current place right now.
I see. Wow. That's a lot. And
Sure is.
yeah, so but I'm sure that we have a lot to dive in. But just to before we dive into all these
Sure.
conversations, I just really wanted to know, besides music therapy, um, what are your hobbies? This is a very
Good
light
one.
question to, yeah. Is there a hobby
Okay,
that you
yeah,
picked
maybe
up
grab a
on?
coffee. Might be a bit long. Yeah. Okay, so in a nutshell, in one sentence, my hobbies are art, reading, and swimming. So I love
Oh,
sunrise and sunset swims. And with my
oh
sunset
wow.
swims kind of usually extending to swimming under the stars. You see, I live in a condo that has a 25-meter pool.
Oh
And it's just
wow.
perfect for that. Yes. So that's my zen and self-care, if anybody wants to
Oh,
know that.
that's so important. Yeah.
Yes. As a
Wow, that's
therapist,
amazing.
yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
it really gives me a lot of kind of just my own. I can just detach from everything and just
Mm-hmm.
be in my own space, really. Yeah. Um,
Recharge.
Yes, it's a recharge, and I just, there's something about the water for me, and I can just relax in there. So yeah, and I love to sketch and paint in watercolors. And I've actually done some mural art, done some calligraphy. I've also done some package designs, logo designs. This is like years
Okay,
ago.
what have
When
you
I-
not done, Preet? It just sounds like you
no,
have done everything.
no, not everything. No. But yeah, I think I'm probably, maybe too hyperactive for for my own good. Probably.
Well, in the
Yeah.
best way, in the best way.
Yeah, so I suppose one of the logo designs that I did was the MMTA logo. Um,
Oh,
so
you
yeah,
did
that was yours
that.
truly. Yes, did the
Oh,
MMTA logo.
nice.
Yeah,
Amazing. Thanks for doing that.
you're
Wow.
welcome.
Uh,
Yeah,
mhm.
when you were saying, with the lockdown, um, swimming was not possible. Pools closed.
Yeah.
Um, so I had to focus on other forms of exercise. So I did, other things. Mat work, exercise ball, the medicine ball, it's just it.
Mhm.
Kind of, I decided to go gentle with myself.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, and honestly, it's been really wonderful being in lockdown with my son. So we've had lots of
Mhm.
laughs, lots of deep
Oh,
conversations, which is absolutely fantastic.
wow.
Yeah, and we both kind of worked on well, it was an idea, and so I actually worked on this. It was a photography project, just using my phone. Um, it's called 365 Days of Sunset from my front
Oh,
balcony.
nice. Yeah.
I have it. I have some of these photos posted on my Facebook, so you'll see what kind of a balcony I have. Yeah, so kind of I'm living on the highest floor of this building, so I get this
Mm,
panoramic view of the sunset, overlooking the bay, overlooking parts of the South China Sea, Tanjung.
yeah.
No, not Tanjung, Likas Bay. So it's a different part of it. So there's a huge kind of
Wow.
I get to read that, yeah, firsthand with the weather kind of thing. So but honestly, during lockdown was where I became a part of a newly formed psychoanalysis group,
Mhm.
and it seems to be the first one in Malaysia,
Oh, wow.
Kuala Lumpur Psychoanalysis Group. And it's just about 10 of us who are we connect with psychoanalysts and psychiatrists in the UK,
Mhm.
and we talk about the psychoanalytic perspective in our therapy work.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're a bunch of different professionals,
I
clinical
see.
psychologists, psychiatrists, therapists, and music therapists. So we are represented in that.
Woohoo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I completed my EMDR and psychological trauma training as well during
Mhm.
last year during lockdown. And I suppose this is also part of this kind of lockdown period. I'll be completing my clinical hypnotherapy training in a few months' time.
Awesome. Well, I'm
So
I'm
that's
sure
me.
that we're gonna talk more about that, about your journey, your
Yeah.
licenseship and all that good stuff. But before that, I always love to ask music therapists or about what your definition is for themselves about what music therapy is. So, would you share that with us, your own interpretation or your definition of what music therapy is?
Yeah. That's kind of the bane of our profession, isn't it? That how can you box in music therapy into a neat package? And I think that's one
Right.
of the hardest things, really, because
Mm-hmm.
music therapy is so universally applicable into all different areas there. And I've myself From my own experience, you know, I bear witness to all these transformations, to all these different collaborations. As a music therapist, having had so many opportunities to work in such huge diverse areas, so it definitely, for me, it is a really, really hard thing to define. But I would say, in an essence, is where music is the change agent for me. So whether it is the core modality, the core agent for change, whether it is a tool or a catalyst, or even as a co-therapist, and that to me is music within therapy, or music therapy itself, you know, where we can, for me, I feel sometimes making a comparison or making similarity actually within, you know, the therapist in talk therapy. What happens as the interaction in talk therapy can be translated as the interaction, the kind of dialogue and conversations, but it's within music. So the elements of music, the sounds, the pitch, the rhythms, the beats, dynamics, the tempo, the textures, all these elements come into play. And as therapists, we can also just focus on one or two of these elements and target specifically for the needs of our patients, of our clients, and be very specific for symptom treatment, as well as taking it into a wider, maybe more psychosocial aspect. And music is really, really the change agent there. And for me, this is also part of my experience of having to explain the music therapy, when people think, you know, okay, I'm going for a music therapy session. It's all about music, which means that it's all about sounds and lyrics and singing. And so a huge feature for me is silence. And that silence is the canvas for which we place all these sounds and rhythms into. I encourage the use of silence also, because silence can be quite a scary thing. But within a music therapy session, it can be thought of in different ways. And so yes, that for me, I don't know whether it's in a nutshell or it's a huge thing. It can be unpacked further, but that for me is what music therapy is.
Absolutely. Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. And I think that just really brings us to the next question on, you know, music therapy is such a unique career. And would you I'm sure there are just tons of things, you know, you can share about your journey, but I would love to know that, you know, what caused you to choose this career for yourself, and you know, would you just walk us into your journey on how it started, what inspired you?
Yeah, sure. Okay, I would say I'm gonna have to start from well before, kind of like in my teens, I think, very clearly, was where music for me was so you know, I just could lose myself in the music, and I really derived a lot of my kind of confidence and I just could be and in dealing with all, you know, kind of adolescent stuff. And I've growing up, I've been exposed to eclectic music experiences. I actually did start performing when I was 9. So I did a lot of community-based performances, school performances, and it was, really eclectic musical experiences. But also, I was exposed to my parents, particularly, who were very much involved in social work. And then they were not part of any organizations, and they would just be, so willing to help people. And so we were kind of, as kids, were part of this, and I was getting excited about, okay, yeah, we've got somebody to help. And I do remember actually some very kind of like, badly abused women, and so it wasn't just helping out relatives, helping out people in the community, but also, I mean, literally strangers who were just uncomfortable, and I actually, were involved with that with my parents. So I had opportunities also to kind of just be very playfully and have, creative groups, using both music and art, actually. And we're just like, okay, let's just have this bunch of instruments here and let's just make noise and all that. So I had all those kind of opportunities.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
then I went, at 14, I decided I was going to be a musician. Determinedly to be a musician. So then I went on to do a degree in jazz and popular music in the UK. And after that, I returned back to KK, and I had an opportunity. I was doing performing, I was doing teaching, and I was also involved in community music. And I was volunteering. So apart from work, I was also doing a distance learning course in child psychology, a diploma in child psychology. And I was volunteering about 3 days a week at a special needs center. It wasn't just children and adults with special needs, but there was also kind of like a mixture of with some with you could see the elements of psychosis and all that. And so I was volunteering there, and I was literally just kind of thrown into the deep end, where the principal there said, okay, right, we've got 100 what students, people here. Do what you can, see what you can do with it, develop some kind of program. So I was literally from the ground level, and I kept a journal of what I did, what worked, what didn't work, what were the kind of observations from the teachers, the carers, and the kids themselves, and small children and adolescents and the adults, what kind of things. And we kind of worked to a fundraising performance. And so alongside the teachers was involved with creating these kind of performances. And so I took on the challenge of, the most profoundly disabled kids to do performance. And we reached a point where it was with a recording, but they were meant to kind of on cue play with the recording. And we reached a point where this is like really huge significance for me, was that journey with them, almost like as if it was group therapy, that and there's this end product here, and they were able to play on cue without me having to cue them in. They could actually listen, hear the music that they were playing with alongside, and it made a really big impact, and it really demonstrated to people, to myself. And at that time I had just done my degree in jazz, but because of coming from that eclectic and improvising background, so that it was something that came very natural for me. And apart from that, at that time I was also I had an opportunity to be part of this. There was this group of pharmacists who were very much wanting to look into music for cancer patients. Yeah, so I had that opportunity so in kind of palliative care. And at that time, the palliative care hospice movement in Malaysia was just starting out. So KK was one of the first alongside with Penang as well. So I was, the opportunity to actually be involved with. And that was from pharmacists who had this interest. It's not just medication. There's the angle of music. So that was really interesting for me. And I remember just kind of like I wanted to do something more with music. I had seen this going kind of nuts within myself. How do I, utilize these kind of musical skills? And honestly, okay, there was no internet at that time here.
Yeah.
My mom actually who suggested, why don't you go and study music therapy? And I was like, what's that? Literally, I did not know at that time. So I made my, and this was by post, no email at that time.
Yeah.
Kind of, and my only connection was with the UK. So I wrote, I tried to find out. I went to the British Council here, their office, and tried to find out all that. So from there, I connected with a music therapist who was in Hong Kong because from the UK, who was in Hong Kong. Because her husband was transferred for work there. So I asked her, I told her, this is what I've done, this is what I'm doing. And she said, it sounds like you're on the right path. And if you really want to do this, then she gave me options of, again, connection was just with the UK. So I then decided, okay, let me look at all of this. And I applied to Roehampton, because I really liked the approach of, it's psychodynamic. The internship was really long, very deep kind of processes. And that was in 1998 when I went to study. And so I became a licensed music therapist in 1999. And I've held license, the UK license, from 1999. So that's my journey to getting to being credentialed.
It's been a long one, and I'm sure you've made so many memories. Wow, that's amazing. So yeah, Preet, why KK? And you have been a music therapist for over 20 years now, right? So I am really curious, what's it like, when you first started your career in Malaysia? And yeah, just why KK?
Yeah. So I came back straight to KK. KK is my hometown. Honestly, I'm of mixed race. So on my maternal grandmother is actually indigenous to Sabah. So I am mixed Punjabi and Kadazan. So that's why I feel very much, Sabah is my kind of my home. So my parents were here. My family was here. I grew up here. Well, I started schooling in England, but I finished all my schooling and all that here. I've had many opportunities to actually, maybe just go over to KL and do work and all that. But I've always kind of like stayed here within East Malaysia. Yes, that is partly. I do feel my roots kind of are here. Also, when I grew up here, it was actually easier to kind of, I came back and felt quite quickly actually worked. I remember when I first came back, it was funny enough, I was actually starting off with supervision, supervising kind of special ed teachers who were kind of wanting to think about their work a little bit further. And then some of them were actually using music. So, how to think about it. So then that slowly, the kind of awareness to what the differences are between, just playing music or performing or teaching, learning, to what music therapy actually is, and to why it's important to actually have a music therapist. So I have always felt, and I think because the work built up quite quickly, starting off, and people were looking for, and because I grew up here as well, so I already kind of knew, in terms of like some of the senior doctors, and other kind of professionals, affiliated professionals, they already kind of I was already familiar with them. So it was just a case of, explaining what a music therapy is, in a way. And because I started that kind of community music, that voluntary work, and just being thrown into the deep end. So I just had this thing of, come back here to develop. To try to develop.
Wow. Fun fact, Preet is the only music therapist in East Malaysia.
The island of Borneo. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm the only one. I would say I am the only one practicing.
Okay.
Yeah, but there probably be one person, one more, one or two more. But they're kind of like working in KL.
So this is also an announcement that she would love to have more music therapists practicing.
Oh yes, please.
So if you're from East Malaysia, anywhere of the world, and you like to contribute to the development of music therapy in East Malaysia, you're more than welcome to contact Preet.
Yes.
Wow. And so it's been a journey. It's been a journey, pioneering music therapy work, having that awareness, keep that going, and just developing programs and all of that. And starting something new is always hard. And so I would really love to hear, what was the most challenging? Yeah, just going in straight.
Yes, sorry.
Some challenges that you have faced, and how did you overcome it? Yeah.
Okay. So I think, interestingly, when I started off in the UK, this has a bearing to. I was in a position to actually, and I did pilot some music therapy programs within some of the hospital settings, as well as community settings. So I had experience of piloting something new, of creating. So I brought that experience back with me to Malaysia. So I would, I would approach, and I did what I could. If there was no funding, I happened to be in a position where I could do these kind of projects voluntarily. And honestly, in all areas, community, special needs, mental health support, abused and trafficked women. So in the areas of trafficking as well, I have addictions, and then within hospitals, and then palliative care, oncology, it's pediatric or adult. I've had opportunities to also supervise, and a lot of the work has been kind of both ways, funded, voluntary, as well as just maintaining a private practice that is kind of privately self-funded by patients and clients, and I would say the biggest challenge, I think, everywhere, regardless in whether it was in the UK, whether it was here, was funding, gaining stakeholder interest to sustain funding.
Yeah.
It will happen as a project, but yeah, so the strength of your report writing to actually enable kind of or make aware or the impact that therapy does need to be a sustainable funding process.
Yeah.
Because many people benefit from it, whether it becomes a core and usually part of their recovery or maintenance of their health, as well as alongside the medical treatments that people are undergoing, and it has been seen, it has been demonstrated. But I would say the biggest challenge, of course, the other challenge is actually being properly recognized as a as a profession that it does require training. This kind of work does require very specific training, and therefore that's why we hold licenses. And we are regulated. We have a code of ethics. So it is really just it's just ongoing, that kind of advocacy, that kind of awareness, making people understand, and also making clients or patients more informed that they are, if they themselves want to seek out music therapy. And this was quite a big part of my kind of advocacy. If you're going to seek out a music therapist, that this is a legit, clinical discipline, please ensure that the therapist actually does have clinical music therapy training, actually holds licenses, and I would give a list of where we have been trained, and that we are actually recognized as a clinical discipline in this country. But we are now working towards, more kind of being more formally recognized and regulated. So I think it's important for people to then understand that. And that has been really a challenge right from the beginning until, and it's an ongoing advocacy challenge there. I hope that
oh yeah, definitely. I think that really helped us to understand what has been going on and what we are working towards, and also just celebrating the little milestones that we have progressed since years ago until to this very day. So thank you for all that you have done for our community. We really appreciate that. Yeah.
Thank you.
So yeah, Preet, I would also love to ask about your experience working with mental health or even a psychiatric population. Like, I know that you briefly mentioned that you work with them. Why not you just share your experience on how music therapy make an impact on mental health?
Okay. I've, in terms of mental health, I have, just to give you an idea, to give the listeners an idea, that I've had a very, very broad range of experience, from intensive care to acute rehab, transitioning into the community, as well as childhood mental health, adolescent mental health, adult, as well as elderly mental health. So all along this way, my primary approach would be to use clinical improvisation, although there is also guided imagery music, which yes, I've just recently been fellow of the AMI. So yes,
Yay!
I am. So I do use guided imagery, clinical improvisation, and there's a lot of thematic work, analytical work. So there's a lot of talk as well that is involved. Yeah, psychotherapeutic.
I'm sorry, before you go further, probably a lot of people has not heard of the term guided imagery or even clinical improvisation. So would you mind just very, very briefly, just to explain what is that?
Okay, yeah, good one. No, thank you. Good call there. Okay, I'll start with guided imagery.
Yeah.
We all you see this thing about you see a lot of guided imagery in music and all that on YouTube. So okay, that's not music therapy to let everybody know. So this is a process where, in terms of guided imagery music, it was pioneered by Dr. Helen Bonney in the United States. And so that approach, very briefly, is where a specifically curated programmed music, currently the core of it would be Western classical music, orchestration as well. Yeah, but it has developed by music therapists to incorporate music of maybe other cultures, as well as non-Western classical also. So what happens is the patient or the client is it's induced into an altered state of consciousness via a relaxation induction.
Okay.
Yeah, and then images, and then the music, they journey with the music, where the music acts as a stimulus, a trigger for images. Then these images could be fantasy-based, metaphors, symbols, or memories even. And emotional stimulus as well. So you'll feel the different emotions that are associated with the images. It's very much work within the unconscious.
I see.
Yeah. And also kinesthetic experiences. So you can actually feel, this kind of sensory within the body as well. So it is an active process, although I do get asked if this is similar to hypnosis, but I'll explain that later, kind of thing. But it's an active process in where the therapist is alongside. So the patient or the client could be, sitting, reclining, or lying down, and the therapist is alongside, having this kind of dialogue, what you see, what you feel, and the associations with it. So that it's part of the therapy. And as therapists, we will be transcribing what is being asked, and what are the interventions that we ask, and what are the descriptions coming from, and what are the reactions, what are the reactions as well. And then when the music comes to an end, then there's this bringing back into conscious state.
I see.
And then that will be the guided imagery music process. Yes.
I see.
For clinical improvisation is where we have really a landscape of musical instruments there, a huge variety of musical instruments. And it is, some people would say it's unstructured, but I would say there is also structure within that. But there's freedom of play using musical instruments.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So, and the therapist would be playing alongside. The therapist will usually be on their own instrument, and the client or the patient, whether it's group or whether it's individual, is really free to make their own choices, and play to what is going on within them. So a lot of the times that how they play, how the interaction is, can be very reflective of either the expression that they want to be able to express themselves with, or it could be how they are expressing, how they are displaying musical behavior, could be symptomatic of their diagnosis. So we accordingly, the interventions will be accordingly via music from the therapist. And so there becomes this kind of this three-way thing there. The client, this is the therapeutic relationship. There's the client, the therapist, and then there's the music.
Right.
There. So this is, it's just it's the non-verbal observations, the silences, the kind of what builds from random sounds can build up into a cohesive piece of music, and it's very spontaneous, very much in the moment. So I would say that's a fantastic way of working for people to really get off all those intrusive thoughts and to really be in the moment, and to exercise choice making, decision making. So the impact, really, when you were mentioning just now, how this music therapy has impacted. Again, it is from the kind of I would say immediate feedback from patients, from clients, and from what I see as well. You hear things like it's been such a long time that I've actually been able to express myself, for me. And it's like, gosh, I was just in the present moment. I did not have any of those intrusive thoughts that and I can actually feel some positive emotions now. So those are the kind of, the impact. And it's like, okay, it's really enabling me to actually be okay and be in touch with some of the more negative emotions. And now that I've expressed it, I want to be able to talk about it. And so that's where you feel, that there is this catalyst element there coming from music that then gets verbalized. So it kind of, enables the verbalization to occur. In terms of, I'd like to kind of pick up on addictions. I've done quite a bit of work with addictions, and we've done guided imagery music in group sessions with addiction clients, where it's like, it's like going on a mind trip without side effects of the drugs. But this is like, it's like I can actually feel that kind of high that I need to feel, but this is safe. And I feel that I can begin to think about, why I need to kind of like be in this addiction, like just damaging myself. So it's the creative process that we have within music, not just the creative process, the how we can actually apply structure, things form into, for me, very much clinical improvisation. It will always start with clinical improvisation. And then it gravitates towards, okay, there's a song kind of forming. So I would then be in that song place. Or we come up to some kind of lyrics there. So we will do lyric analysis. So that's how I work.
Wow, that's awesome. A lot of basically there's a lot of information to process. And I feel like what really made me really understand music therapy better is through stories. So I think for our listeners, or maybe you are tuning in for the first time, you have never heard of what music therapy is, and be like, what on earth is this, And maybe you could tell us, one story, one patient story. I'm sure you have like a millions of them by now, but is there one story that that has really impacted you? One patient story that has really impacted you that you can share with us that would give us like a light on how the session goes, and just that how it impacts you as a music therapist. Oh, that's a hard one, isn't it?
This is a really, really tough one for me because I have seen so much transformation. I would like to pick up on actually one particular patient when I was in the UK, when I was working in the UK, where we were actually not okay. This patient was a musician who had a stroke and was referred for music therapy. Because the speech therapy was not really impacting in any way. So music was considered as a bridging to enable maybe, a more comfortable process before the speech therapy sessions. And I had, the funding was for 8 sessions. And I remember very clearly, now this person was a musician. He said, no, I'm not playing any musical instruments. Absolutely not. And it would definitely, because you see, this is the thing where people need to understand as well, that just because you're referred for a music therapy session, sometimes the music, having to play the instruments, especially when you have been playing instruments before, in whatever way, highlights the disability, highlights the trauma, highlights the damage. So we thought, okay, well, what? But he said, but I'd really like to listen. Maybe let's just do some listening. And his speech was, I was really, really struggling to hear his speech, but it was all sorts of kind of indications of, okay, let's just listen. So who's your favorite? So it just so happened that we had some favorites. we had, so we chose Santana at that time. Yeah. So, but via that, by listening to music, and he said it's just the fact that you're just sitting there, you're just being with me, listening together, and not really needing to say anything, but we're just listening. So within those 8 sessions, from having really unable to form his words, really being frustrated and in tears of trying to express himself. And I suppose this is also the process of that stage of when you have, you're having a stroke, your speech is impacted, and it does take time to regain or recover some way of getting back into speech. So it was in that kind of first stages. And the music listening, the sessions, he was looking forward to sessions because we were listening to stuff where he felt that we were listening to things that both of us were interested, not just I was just sitting there listening to what he was interested in. So that made a difference for him. And that aided the therapeutic relationship there. So I remember slowly the nursing staff, could hear, said that, every time after the music therapy session, we actually hear clearer, that there's clearer formation, there's the articulation, the words actually, becoming a bit more, because he was not willing to engage in speech therapy as well. So via this process, it actually helped him regain his ability to speak, to form the words clearer, and to be less frustrated, less depressed, and actually to accept that he was not going to be playing music. He wasn't going to be a musician anymore. So that was an impact. That was really impactful for me. And I guess for me, coming from that kind of, clinical improvisation place at that time, and that was just maybe about 8 months after I had got my license to practice. Coming from a clinical improvisation, I will admit I felt, oh gosh, now what am I going to do? This is supposed to be about music and playing and everything. But that really taught me that, you can just be and you can just listen. But with the training of music therapy, you know how to utilize the music, how to offer, how to use it as an intervention. And that really taught me.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
I don't think we have time for any more, right?
I think we'll just stick with one. I think that's a powerful story, and just seeing that change, and also for yourself. And not only that, I think like it has a certain power that, like when somebody else that actually knows the patient themselves, and then they themselves saw that difference, saw that progress, and they verbalize that. I think that's like, that, oh, this is something powerful, this is something that has changed, because like other people can see it. And so I think
I just remembered something actually. There was once where we had to reschedule the session in that, and when I did turn up, he was like, so where have you been? I've been waiting for you. I was waiting for the music, So that in itself, where the feedback, also the fact that the sessions and not having the session, it's it's a clear indication of that, the session is doing something for the client. And it was definitely, as you said, it was witnessed by the nursing staff as well. Please.
Yeah, and I also just love that there was very significant trust and therapeutic relationship. And without trust and that relationship, I don't think it would be that effective. And so
absolutely. Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. So Preet, after so many experience of being in the UK, being in Malaysia, is there any advice that you like to give for anyone who's interested in starting music therapy career? Yeah, what advice would you give them?
I think it's something that's kind of a question that all of us music therapists who are in Malaysia kind of or frequently approached.
Asked. Yeah.
Yes, asked. So this is what I say: develop your musicianship skills.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say musicianship skills, it's really develop the ability to be creative, to be comfortable with silences, to be able to just pick up on one sound and what are you going to do with it? Where can that go? How does what do you derive meaning from your own experiences of being with music? What sense can you feel with the music? And really developing your musicianship skills, not just on your main instrument, but be just really pick up any instrument there, and just especially with the type of familiarize yourself actually with all the untuned and tuned percussion, all the different ways of, if I were to give somebody a frame drum, can you give me 10 different sounds from that, 10 different ways of playing it, and can you play with the sound and the silence, and how does that work? So kind of confidence, really confidence to pick up even a found sound, and to make music with that.
Wow.
Yeah. And just to play, to really just play with them. The vocals, the body percussion, all that.
Be creative, have fun, have that freedom to explore. Yeah, I think that's a really good advice for anyone who's wanting to pursue music therapy.
Yes. Also,
very good
I
starting
have.
point.
Sorry, I feel just getting too excited.
Yes, go ahead.
I think also a very, very big thing is the therapeutic relationship. So actually really understanding, go and experience therapy, for yourself, whether it's individual, whether it's group therapy, because you really need to understand what it is like to be a client, to be a patient in therapy. That kind of vulnerability and exposure, you're allowing somebody else to help you. You're the courage to actually ask for help. And I think that goes a very, very long way in terms of self-development for potential therapists. Then it's music, yes, but it's also about the personal development. Get to know all the different psychotherapeutic models. If you're interested in neuro rehab, then really I try to understand, the physical playing of instruments and how that has an effect on motor control, limb movement, all that, so you can really be able to flow between performing, between helping, between being there for your clients, for your patients. That's my 2 cents.
Yes, thank you so much for that advice. I believe that this would be a very good starting point for whoever that is interested, to pursue this as your career, or even just like, oh, what is music therapy? Yeah, this is a really good starting point. So last but not least, Preet, if there's one tune or a song that could describe your career in music therapy, what would that be?
That's another tough one. Oh gosh, maybe I'm too complicated.
So would that be like a medley of songs?
Yeah, it kind of sounds like it, doesn't it? It gravitates toward. But I would say I would like to. I think one particular song. It's actually a hymn from the Sikh religion, and that's what I am. It's this kind of I would say I like the arrangement that has been. It's very, very old, and it's sung in a very, very traditional. We have like the Indian ragas, the scales. So it's very old. But I like the fusion that has been done by an American Sikh. It's called Hariya, and this particular arrangement is by Sanatan Kaur, who's in the US, and so it's a blend of that traditional rag with instruments that we use now. Yeah, and that song, that hymn, really signifies kind of like inner strength.
Wow.
The grit, the resilience, and just the focus that you are part of. You're a tiny thing, part of the bigger picture. And that, I think, really, really it gives me you derive a lot of energy and a lot of peace and calm as well, that things you are part of a bigger picture.
Wow. That's beautiful. I just love hearing from a music therapist perspective, like how would they describe their journey. And I've just seen a pattern of like how faithful, how resilient you guys are, just being a therapist. And I think that's one quality that I've been seeing and really admire, that it just plays such a huge role in this field. So
well, my question to you, Ivy,
oh
is
yes. Oh, I didn't expect to be asked on my
throwing the
podcast.
interviewer off here. I hope, does it give you kind of like the interest and the will to kind of know that, yes, I can keep going in this profession, because you are a music therapist as well.
Yes, absolutely. Since the first episode, I've been so encouraged and motivated. I've only been practicing like what, 5 years. I'm not nowhere near like 20 over years. But yeah, it does give me so much of just motivation and encouragement to just keep going on. And I think just by just hearing all of your experiences, your wisdom, and just your stories just really gives me such an good push, and inspire me to just thrive for the more, and to even see that development and that change in our country. And yeah, so I really hope that for Malaysia, that we are able to move forward in whatever ways that we are hoping for, especially in this field, and that more people could actually benefit from this.
Yes,
So
it's
thank you for your
possible.
sharing.
It's possible.
Yeah, it is possible, guys. Let's do this together. That's so good. So yeah, before we end, Preet, where can our listeners connect with you online? Is there an email or your social media or your website? Where can they connect with you if they like to?
If there's one thing that I procrastinated on, was to actually do my own website. So that's still in the process.
All right.
But for now, I am, of course, listed on MMTA website as part of the committee, as well as the profile of music therapists there. So you can check me out there. I think my email is also there.
Okay.
People could actually also check out my bio, and in fact even connect via the KL psychoanalysis.org, as well as via Jesselton Medical Center, via the hospital, jmc.my. I can be emailed. If you want to email me directly at the hospital, it will be at Gurpreet@jmc.my. My email as well is gkalsi2288@gmail.com.
And do not worry, I would also put all the details in the description box below. So if you'd like to connect with Preet, you can definitely do so there. So yeah, once again, thank you so much, Preet, for joining us on this episode. This has been so much fun and insightful. And if you find this episode helpful, feel free to share this with your friends and family, or even comment down below what's your takeaway from this episode, and we would love to hear from you. And also, if you'd like to learn more about Live Tunes and what we do, feel free to connect with us at our social media at Live Tunes Music Therapy, and we would love to chat with you. So this is the end of our podcast. It has been a great wow adventure, Bree. Thank you so much again. And
thank you so much, Ivy, for your effort to do this, really. And I'm so pleased to be part of your journey as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining us, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye-bye.